that today we have a specific topic of what we call as actor-relational approach as one of the approaches to organize what we call as collaborative and smart governance for urban management. So in these sessions, we will have around 30 to 45 minutes. Hopefully, I can deal with the time. And we have 7 points here to be discussed. Sorry. Yeah, the first one will be the introduction. And then the second one is we try to frame it why the actor-relational approach is important, especially with regard to the changing or the transitions of planning practice. And then we also unravel the concept of actor-relational approach. What are the key principles and what kinds of practices representing the methods of actor-relational approach? And then we also provide you with a brief best practice of the implementations of actor-relational approach. However, it is a practice that was presented in the case of housing project in the Netherlands. And then we enter the discussion sessions. And then finally, at the end of this session, I encourage you all to be participated in a short workshop in order to draw your own project. I mean, I will let you know what will we do in this session, but basically that was a session where we can just work together in a group and drop your comments and drop your opinions on what is good and what is important to develop a kinds of collaborative project, especially using the logical frameworks of actor-relational approach. So this is just a short capping from the previous activities. So we are here in the day 2. If you remember, many of you already joined the first session, so I do believe that many of you already familiar with the theories of collaborative and smart governance. Pak Wicak yesterday morning supplied you with knowledge and then best practices and then local context of what are implemented as collaborative and smart governance, especially from the case of Indonesia and some nearby countries. And then we also got some knowledge and information from our CityNet representatives, especially in terms of how CityNet developed the collaborations, especially to organize or to help the public service provisions. They maintain through the capacity building programs. They organize like collaborative works between government and NGOs and local communities in specific issues like waste management and also in terms of digital planning practice. So what we got from the day 1 are mostly around theoretical comprehensions and knowledge with regard to the context and concepts of what we call as collaborative and smart governance. And in the day 2, the aims is to introduce you with the best practice of our context, because we are talking about collaborative and smart governance in the context of climate action. So the first one was the topic regarding how to build collaborative practice in order to provide waste management. I mean, an effective waste management project. And that was the case from Malang City, that we can learn a lot, Malang district, I'm sorry, that we can learn a lot, especially how they plan to embrace local communities to support. And then they encourage local government to work together in order to provide innovative strategies like sanitary landfill, join with the ecotourism effort. And then they try to build networking in order to secure additional funding from external agencies like from FDA and so forth. So that was an important case that can be learned, but we have to admit that the implementation is not like clearly copy practice by itself. So there is a process that we need to understand that in order to replicate one practice from one area to the other areas, there are many aspects needs to be needs to be understood. And one of which was the network between, or the communications, or the collaborations, or the relationship values between the key actors in the area. The stronger it is, so the easier the initiative can be organized through the collaborative process. So here in the second section of today's agenda, after the best practices, I would deliver a topic about the actor-relational approach. So here the aims is to supply you with a specific method. It is just a logical framework to guide you to initiate a sort of collaborative project. It is not a fixed step by step, but you can absorb and understand the process, and then you can apply through your own process. But 7 stages of actor-relational approach is only to guide you on how to subsequently organize in a right way of doing a collaborative practice, especially from embracing, mapping, making agreement, and then make it real into organizations. And on day 3, hopefully tomorrow, we will provide you with sharing sessions and also networking building. So yeah, I will go through. So basically, this was also presented by Pak Wicak in different way, but I want to emphasize that the background behind the collaborative governance is the shifting from rational collaborative planning, to what we call as collaborative paradigm, which is now maybe we are going to the self-organization paradigms in planning practice. But then the important point is that community or the people are increasingly demand more specific ways of articulating their voices, accommodating their power, and also releasing their initiatives in order to work in contributing to the development process. So practice is like just working through public disseminations, public hearings would not be effective nowadays. And it is need to be improved through the process where communities can be embraced and can be facilitate to speak up, to contribute their resources, and also moreover to organize the practice and to lead the practice. And it is where collaborative governance exists. So the level of what Sherry Arnstein said in the ladder of citizen participations is increasingly higher to this level, to the citizen control, delegated power, and especially as we are talking about today's topic, it is the process of partnership. So what we call as partnership is when all stakeholders working together is equal with their own resources, contributions, and also their own access to make voice and share their power. So why it is important to go through beyond the top-down planning practice and go to the partnership approaches, because the problems, especially in urban development, are wicked or complicated. We can't say that one shot of policy can solve everything. There is always a problem with pros and contras. And there is also no clear definitions about priority issues. When the government say it is priority for them, perhaps, or it might be yes, or it might be no for some other people. So we need to mediate these kinds of differences. And then there is also relativity in terms of solutions, the right solutions to solve the problem. For example, the current local government of DKI Jakarta, for example, applied the so-called bioporic strategy, like making some holes in the road, on the streets, or on the open space areas to capture the wet water from the wind, from the rains, and from the river to the sea, in order to reduce the potentials of flood. But some other people say that this kinds of strategy is not important, and this kinds of strategy is not effective enough. and they said the government should do different way. For example, like to reduce the number of land reclamations on the northern of Jakarta, for example. So the problem is subjective, and there is no right or there is no wrong, especially when we call and when we talk in front of different types of actors, government, communities, private sectors, community organizations, and all of them are having different sort of strategies, interests, and priorities. So assuming that the problems are wicked, we need to work through the different different strategies of dealing with the problem. While in the previous times, the government interpret all the problems and make strategies. Now we are entering the period where government should embrace, should look at different actors to work together, and then and share some strategies, and then maintain these strategies to be specific and effective policies together. So it is where the collaborative planning works. Why it is important? Because the state will always talk about power, talk about interventions, administrative boundaries, and things like that. And there is also a bureaucratic process where hinder a lot of practice from innovative actions to a business as usual, because the government usually not brave enough to do something innovative because of the problems with regard to regulations and bureaucracies matters. I think it is also happening in maybe different countries like Nepal, Philippines, and so forth. But market can provide you with a lot of innovative strategies. But if we let market to work alone, then the problem would be commercializations. There will be problems with and exploitations of so many resources in order to satisfy their business activities. And usually, the most vulnerable group faced by market-led policies are the community themselves. And the communities are usually working for their own. They want to get equal access. They want to have comfortability to live. I mean, they need to be supplied in terms of basic needs. So all these kinds of actors are grouped into 3 areas that we need to be mediated by the policies or by the initiatives. So calling at these kinds of relations or connections, the current planning practice now is going into the focus on how the network between actors needs to be seen, needs to be understood in order to make a proper, or in order to make a good policies to solve certain issues in an urban area, for example. Yeah, this is an illustrations of why we need network studies. As I mentioned earlier, we basically in an urban area, for example, we have 3 different groups. There are those representing government affairs, and those representing market affairs, and those representing society affairs. And these 3 groups usually work on their own strategies and interests. And then the points of working through this group of peoples are to understand how they connect with each other. Are the government and markets working good at the moment? Are there any problems between the society and government? Are the society and market are helping with each other to develop like local business or something like that? If they are good enough, then we can emphasize and we can put the best strategies to improve the policies. For example, if we look at the case of waste management, for example, and then we need to solve the problem in a specific area, and we understand that there are 3 actors there, like government, market, and society. Using the network studies, we learn first on which actor are having the best relationship. And if we know, for example, the society and the market are those 2 actors with the best relationship in this city, for example, then we can start the policy from looking at these relations rather than going through the government access or going to the government channel. Why? Because by having the best way of relationship, we can mobilize many actors to work through and support the project. So that is the importance of sensibilities on knowledge in terms of networking in urban development dynamics. So imagine that there is a process of like market products and then how households involved in the process of trade and so forth. It is also a lot of connections between the household as a supplier of basic goods and as a consumer for daily products. And then the markets also work through the government channels to have permissions or something like that, and government supply the product market with facilities and so forth. And the interactions between actors need to be identified in order to see which are the best solutions to solve at the beginning or at the end. So that is the importance of working through urban networks, which is the reason of why we need to learn about network studies. So I would like to emphasize here that the shifting of planning paradigm from conventional to the current periods of practice is the limitations of government effort and the improvements or the increase of opportunity for communities and private sector to contribute in the process. The matrix shown on your slide divides them into two types. This is the conventional approach where government dominates a lot of aspects, and in the new types of approach, it is many parts that are organized through community and private sector's effort. So this is important, so then we can see that it is clearly need more sensibilities and understanding in terms of learning towards the networks between actors, especially communities and private sectors. So yeah, this is also in the ESOP, the planning organizations in the 2017 promotes that we are entering the era of entrepreneurship, where urban practices need to be sought, need to be organized, need to be managed through the process of entrepreneurial ways. So the obsolete models like top-down government practices or bureaucratic models need to be replaced by new innovative ways that depends on, let's say, ad hoc bodies representing the government and private sectors to work together to solve the problems of certain slum areas and something like that. And it is important also to look at the potentials of generating revenue from the activities rather than waiting from the local government budget or something like that. Something that we also seen from the previous case of Malang district. So the umbrella or the basic understandings of actor-relational approach is the actor network theory. Basically, what we call as actor network theory is that urban elements, the people or the organizations, are having the meaning in urban area when both of them are interconnected with each other. Let's say there is a police and there is a people. So the connection between them can be like, for example, crimes or security in terms of area and something like that. So basically, the network studies learn about the meaningful relationship between urban elements, the actors, the organizations, the facilities, and so forth. And we talk about the actor-relational approach, and the actor-relational approach emphasizes the thinking, the way of thinking that focuses on predefined, well-argued, representational, sorry, public goals, and then in order to to be accommodating in order to be able to ensure the social justice, and then in order to provide flexibilities, participatory and collaborative effort in great varieties of urban initiatives. So the actor-relational approach itself consists of 7 stages. The first stages is identifications of unique selling point. The second one is actor analysis. The third one is development of opportunity map. The fourth one is roundtable. The fifth one is a business case. The sixth one is a regime initiatives, and the last one is associated democracy. So these 7 stages actually a logical framework to guide us on how to embrace people to be within our network to mobilize a specific project together. So I think Malang district also did the same way, but perhaps with different approach, or maybe spontaneously doing a sort of a collaborative approach. But theoretically, when we talk about this kinds of process, the actor-relational approach propose you with the idea that at the beginning of your collaborations, it is very important to embrace the all actors, important actors, to sit together and start to thinking about the potential or the identifications of the selling points of the area or the project. Let's say you invite a local government representative, you invite a community representative, you invite academics, and ask them to sit together and start to share what they think about the project. Are the project good enough for them? Are the project a potential for them? And see the dynamics of their response. And you can see the red lining between all the comments, all the aspirations, the aspirations, and then finally you can see whether the project is feasible or not. And basically you can build a basic characteristics of the project. For example, if you want to talk about a waste management project, if you have comments from many participants, from many actors, that the project should be cheaper in terms of service fee. So you start to think about a project that needs to be conducted through a mechanism that potentially built through revenue generation process, for example, because by having more revenue generations process, you are less depending on, let's say, service charge from the community. So then you can start to think about what kinds of side project to support the main project of waste management. Let's say you can sell the composting product, you can sell the RDF product, you can also organize a sort of like education facilities, and then you can also let your facilities to be used by academics for research and development purposes. So, and these kinds of dynamics can guide you to a specific characteristics of the project that you want, that you and your partners want equally. And then after you identify the unique selling point, you go to the actor analysis. You start to dragging down who are your main and potential actor to work together supporting the project. And don't forget, you need also to map some actor that might hinder you from the project implementations. Let's say you have the supporting actor, and you have also the opposite actor that potentially refuse to work together, or moreover they kind of challenge you and your idea. So after you map the actor analysis, then you can go to the development of opportunity maps. Here in the opportunity maps, you start to make you start to identify what kinds of activities can be extracted from the main project idea. I mentioned earlier that there is a project, for example, for waste management, education activities. You can also selling the composting product from the project. You can also ask the expansions of facilities to build like a incinerator to help some consumer to to drop their waste and then use the incinerator to burn some medical waste, for example. And then you can also ask the potentials of transforming the waste for other purposes, like for example the one in Malang district, to transform the waste to specific gases for energy or something like that. And then the opportunity map are identified, and then you also think about what is the best way of doing communications between the actors. And there are many ways of doing this. Some kinds of actors are preferred to working under formal tables, like maybe monthly meetings in the committee, or maybe a weekly meeting through the ad hoc group or something like that. But some others also think that informal meetings like lobbying or a celebrational event that supplemented by a sort of bridging and communications between actors are also effective to maintain the communications between actors in these kinds of relationship. And on the roundtable, you can also understand which actor can be active and which actor are passive, basically. So this is the place where you can design the continuity of your initiatives. That is why we need to emphasize the best way or the most suitable ways of organizing the what we call as the roundtable. And then after we design the roundtable, we start to think about what is the best pilot project to start to begin the activities. We can pick some of the development of opportunity maps result. For example, according to the development of opportunity map, we have like 5 cases, and then we discuss together within the team, and then we decide to pick one of them, which is good as an entry point to initiate the project and to make the project sound, and then able to embrace many other actors beyond the specific main actor. So after that, we decide the rules of the game. How do we manage the process through the plan, to the visions, the programs, and so forth. And finally, we develop an organization, a specific organization. What kinds of organizations that can be used to maintain these kinds of process? So that is all the 7 stages of actor-relational approach, which is basically 7 stages of logic that we need to how can I say, to embrace different actors to work together within a specific topic. I also add some points here, like for example, in order to extract identifications of unique selling point, we need to identify the actor opinions, and then what are their expectations, what are their potential contributions, and then what are their opinions in terms of the challenges of realizing these kinds of project, for example. And then in the second one, for the actor analysis, we focus on mapping the actor. So all the first actors involved in the project needs to identify their allies and their potential challengers, and then they can pick some actor as the most important allies and combine all together, and then we can draw a specific sort of like a mapping of actor that is important to be learned, especially in terms of their relationship. These extractions of actor analysis will help you to define which part is the most important point need to be used by the project as a starting point to realize the project. Let's say, for example, if the most important relationship between a local community leader and the local NGO, so you can start to have a pilot project begins with these 2 organizations or 2 groups. Okay, from this, and then we, in the development of opportunity maps, we basically just design some important project that can be applied and then connected to the main project, and see what kinds of revenue or potential revenue can be can be obtained, especially to support the continuations or the sustainabilities of the project. And then in the roundtable, as I mentioned already, that there is a type of meetings that can be proposed as a way of connecting people to share and to make a collective decision-making process. And then this one is how can we replicate or can we apply one project as a pilot in order to promote the idea into the wider audience. If the pilot project's okay, then usually many people will see and join to the collaborations after that. And finally, it is important to build the formal agreement and working mechanism between actors. It takes a lot of time to mediate the process, but usually after a series of times, like maybe 1 year or 2 years, then the mutual agreement between actors can be obtained, and they can share the values and the culture each other. So the start of agreement will help you to make the project smoothly implemented after that. And finally, it is important to develop what kinds of organizations to support the project. For example, it can be pure local government state-owned company like the one mentioned by Malang district, or it can be a representative ad hoc body under the government supervision, or it can be specifically under the community leadership, like community organizations or something like that. So that is all for today. I think this is a short, if I still have time, Mas Bayu, just 3 minutes to introduce you with what the actor-relational approach help in terms of slum revitalizations in specific housing area in Belgium.
Yes,
So,
please continue,
yeah.
Chris.
Okay, thank you. So basically, we have this, that according to the area name is Lutchbol, and the Lutchbol was a place where supposed to be public housing, but then the condition was derelict because of so many people lost their job, and then the government also missed their interest to support the area. So many roads are not in a good condition. Many facilities are not working well, and the apartment itself are in the poor building conditions. And the community think that the derelict area need to be improved. And at that time, the community work with local community organizations and also the university, local university, to work together, and they start to apply these kinds of actor-relational approach. So at the beginning, the community and the academic groups work together in a series of table meetings and define what kinds of unique selling points of the area. And the decision comes into 5 points: that the Lutchbol is a place where many students are living. And then the second one, the Lutchbol is the hinterland areas of a busy urban area, where the area itself provides mixtures of natural and urban characteristics, which is good. And then the Lutchbol is surrounded by public infrastructure, which is served by the tram, and also connected by the main road. And the Lutchbol has a lot of public space, which is another important point, because in the surrounding area, mostly there are high density buildings and lack of green and public spaces. So the Lutchbol offer plenty of opportunity to be important points within the area. So they successfully identified 5 key points as the unique selling points of the area. So this is the imaginations of, or the pictures of Lutchbol apartment that we say as quite derelict in terms of buildings, facilities, and the communities. So the second stage is actor analysis, where the local community successfully identified 3 groups. The public actors, there are housing department, economic department, youth and education department, whilst in business actor, there are retailers, some hotel owners, and then transport operators and private schools located within the area. And then the third one is civic actors. There are basically those living in the lodgeball apartment, which many of them are local people who have been living for 50 or even 60 years. And then a few migrants and those working in port, and then how can I say, work in the surrounding the port. So this is an image of communities in lodgeball. And this is the an example of what they produce as opportunity maps according to the meeting process. Let's say they have 4 important opportunities to be developed in the lodgeball. For example, the social green carpet, because it connects to the value of lodgeball as a part of the city, where public green space are still rich enough in terms of the size of the area. And then the lodgeball school in point D represents the idea of developing a place for working, studying, and also conducting social activities, because of the lodgeball is located at the center of many private schools, which is another important point to be considered by the local agencies. And then it is also a lodgeball foyer. It is basically an idea to develop lodgeball into a sort of MICE services, mostly for sport and theater, and then for social activities. So all of these 4 characteristics are designed to be installed in the area, and the community and the local universities and local government are successfully designing, and then making some allocations for the area, and then and make them into like sort of strategies for local development. They decide to have mixtures of formal and informal meetings, where in the formal meetings they join through the community representative meetings initiated by the city governments of Antwerp and then the agencies of social housings, whilst in parallel the local community initiate meetings through the slightly more informal meetings, embracing or facilitated by local activists, academics, youth communities, and local city planners. So this is image of local roundtables. The top left shows that some meetings can be organized through sport events, whilst the down left shows you the more formal meetings conducted through the table, like a normal meetings in government or city councils. And then after we have the roundtable design, we think about what is the best way of promoting the project from the beginning. And the business case finally decided to look at one project. The name is the Spindus project as the pilot project. In this Spindus project, they begins with a small car, and then regularly every holiday, like every weekend, they drop a special pop-up market where community can sell some handicraft product, whilst at the same time the community representatives start to communicate with the people coming to the event and identify the aspirations about what is good about the lodgeball revitalizations. Some are asking for example, the expansions of the park area. Some other actors maybe also ask about the extensions of the tramways to be closer to their house, and some other require the local government to repair the facilities and the buildings. So this is the pilot project that aim at absorbing community aspirations at the beginning and communicating what are going to be done in the area, and it was quite successfully according to the paper. And then in order to maintain these kinds of spirit, they develop sort of collaborations in the ad hoc body model, and then they have a plan making, and they have a semi-autonomous agencies involving some local market, local companies, and also with community leaders. So that is all for the introductions of the case study. So I don't know, maybe now or maybe after the break time in 1 o'clock, we will be having a workshop where I would like to invite you to be in a group, and then you can start to fill in some aspirations in order to build your own project about let's say whether it is waste project or water project. And then we try to do it through the logic of actor relational approach.